Thank you. Of course, we thank once again our speakers, Abdulillah, Sharbil, and Rami, for showing us how heritage and technology can actually come together to preserve and share culture in exciting new ways. This is exactly what Cultural Investment Conference is all about, bringing together visionaries, innovators, and leaders who are shaping the cultural future of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and actually connecting it to the world. Today's conversation will highlight how investing in culture fuels industries, inspires communities, and positions Saudi Arabia as a global hub for creativity and, of course, for opportunity. As we continue, we turn to an essential question. How can culture act as a true catalyst, not just for identity, but for growth, for competitiveness, and for national prosperity? Of course, to guide us through the next panel, a very important discussion, we will welcome Noor Nugli, Assistant Editor-in-Chief of Arab News, for an exciting session with governmental leaders from different sectors in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, those that enable growth with culture as a true catalyst.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What an honor to be here on the second day of the Cultural Investment Conference. I'm here with their excellencies and very excited to kickstart this session. It will be a very interesting one and hopefully informative as well. I've been promised to say no jokes, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Let's kickstart this. I'm going to jump right in and ask Your Excellency, of course. They need no introduction, but please allow me to do so because I'm very overwhelmed with being with greats on the stage. His Excellency Hamid bin Muhammad Faiz, Vice Minister of Culture. His Excellency Badr bin Abdurrahman al-Qadi, Vice Minister of Sport. His Excellency Ammar Naqadi, Vice Minister of Economy and Planning. And Her Excellency Dr. Íinás al-عيسى, Deputy Minister of Culture, Education.
Vice Minister of Education.
Education.
Yes.
Your Excellency, if you allow me to start, I'd like to ask you about cultural mega projects, because they've been central to Saudi Arabia's transformation. How can we ensure these investments also nurture grassroots creativity and independent cultural production, not only flagship institutions?
First of all, before I answer, I just want to say that I'm truly honored to be here with not my peers or colleagues, but my actual friends. We interact almost on a daily basis, and it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you for accepting our invitation to speak at this conference. That's a very good question, Noor, and you are right. I think if we invest in flagship or mega projects without nurturing grassroots creativity or supporting independent production, that would be not sufficient nor sustainable. So what we try to do is to ensure that we achieve that through three different ways. First is anchor in heritage, and my colleague, His Excellency Rakan Al-Tawq, had mentioned this yesterday, spoke about it a little bit. But when we invest, especially when it comes to infrastructure, we look at being an anchor tenant through a program or an event or an actual asset. An example of such is the JAX Creative District in Riyadh. It was just a bunch of warehouses. We transformed it into an art district anchored by Arduraiya Bin Ali Foundation and the event itself that takes place every 2 years. What happened since is a full value chain was created and a wider ecosystem within the district where now demand is difficult to even please or achieve or even support all the requests that come in. So meet, basically, that's the word I was looking for. Another example is Jeddah Historic District. We just saw an announcement. Obviously, it's UNESCO heritage site. From a cultural perspective, we're mandated to preserve the area, but what we also did through the team is regenerate 66 buildings as well as invested in repurposing some of these buildings into boutique hotels. And again, a wider ecosystem was created with everyone standing to benefit from through anchoring our investment at the core of what we try to do. So, and not only that, it's from a grassroots nurturing perspective, we have academic institutions, we have residencies, we have programs to support that nurturing component. So that's one way. A second way is through investing in platforms as opposed to monuments. So another example, Red Sea International Film Festival Foundation. What you see is a festival. What you see is a distribution of the filmmaking component or sector. But in reality, it's a full-year program. More than 50 projects were supported. When celebrities come to Saudi, we ask them to have master classes with young aspiring filmmakers. So we try as much as possible not only to leverage the event itself, but create platforms around it to nurture grassroots and support independent production. Lastly, it's through scalability. So we have a national agenda. We're for everyone, everywhere. So wherever a program or a project can be scaled throughout the kingdom, we try to do so. Cultural houses was the new format of libraries, the modern libraries. We already launched 8 across the kingdom and more to come. From an NGO's perspective, there were 19 NGOs in 2019, now 140 across the kingdom. We've created 340 cultural clubs, hobby clubs around the kingdom. So there's a lot that we're trying to do through scaling our programs to ensure that we nurture grassroots wherever we can. Now, putting all of this together, what this shows is demand is real. And if you want to put the investment component or angle into this, the demand is real. And what we try to do at the Ministry of Culture is we support and enable this, create a marketplace where we have real demand, we have real service and supply. So it's a win-win-win. The investor wins, the beneficiary wins. We win because our mandate is being delivered one way or another.
Your Excellency, what a fantastic answer. And I truly have to commend the Ministry of Culture because I'm old enough to see the changes and remember the things that we didn't have in the past and the choices, the unlimited choices we have now. So thank you so much for all your efforts there.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, I do have to ask you, sports is very inclusive, it's very important, and it's the thriving heartbeat of the kingdom at the moment. So in what ways can sports amplify cultural identity for international audiences?
Thank you, Noor. Thank you for having me, Your Excellency, and everyone. It's a pleasure to be in this panel. Let me start with a personal story. I'll tell you something happened with me in 2018. I was in Moscow. I went to attend the World Cup. Back then, I wasn't aware that one day I'll be in the sports sector. This trip was, as I said, to attend the World Cup. I don't remember today what was the game that I attended, but I remember very well what I've experienced in Moscow and St. Petersburg. I remember the museums I visited. I remember the culture, how hospitable were the Russian people. So if sport is the magnet that attracts visitors, culture is the glue that makes them stay and stays with them as well. To be honest, this is what we also do here in Saudi. Culture and sports goes hand in hand. You cannot imagine a sporting event without a cultural aspect around it happening. Similarly, if I think of some of the events that we host here, Rally Dakar, for example, what we remember from the rally, not who took the first place or the second place or who came third, but rather the scenery that we've seen, Al-Ula, Red Sea, and others, and so on. So all of that leaves an understanding and a memory with the people that have attended such interesting event. Think about international cities, for example, Barcelona, Real Madrid, or so on. What you remember is the stadium of these iconic stadiums of these cities. If I think of China, Beijing in specific, I think the first image that comes in my mind is the Beijing National Stadium, the one that was hosted the Olympic opening. And it's for that, this is a sport without culture doesn't really leverage the full fledged of such sporting event. The Saudi Vision 2030 is very interesting, where you see the collaboration happening between different entities. And I work with His Excellency and his team very closely on whenever we have a sporting event, what would be the cultural aspects that we'd be leveraging aside of this. We do that not only with culture, but with tourism as well and with other sectors. So all of that sets the stage for leveraging the most out of these sporting events that takes place and give the international visitors the best experience of Saudi. Once they come for a sporting event, they leave with a cultural memories.
So fantastic to hear that culture is embedded in every entity and you find it everywhere, and that's the impact that leaves you when you visit a country. Thank you so much for sharing that personal story, Your Excellency, Engineer Ammar. How does the Ministry of Economy and Planning integrate culture into diversification strategies?
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, it's great to be here today, and I want to thank His Excellency Hamid and the Ministry of Culture for organizing such a great event in such an exceptional venue. Let me start by saying that Saudi's economic transformation is built on the idea that we want to unleash the potential of all regions, all sectors, and the people for Saudi, with diversification being one of the core objectives. Now, diversification is important because it ensures long-term prosperity for Saudi and its people. Saudi has two main engines of growth that drive this diversification. These engines of growth are not important because they drive growth and create jobs only, but also because they are export-oriented. They are not limited by the potential or the demand that we have in the local market, and they export products and services. The first engine is industry and mining. This is a stronghold, and we continue to build our industrial base. The second engine of growth is actually the new and emerging sectors: culture, sports, tourism, entertainment. These sectors complement one another. They attract visitors and increase the exports of Saudi. Now, there are other sectors as well that enable this growth, from education to health, building human capital, to energy, water, and transportation, building the infrastructure. This momentum has led to 18 consecutive months, or quarters actually, 18 consecutive quarters of growth in non-oil activities with an average of 5%, bringing non-oil activities to 56% of GDP, which is an all-time high. Jobs are being created, participation is increasing, and today we're at an all-time low in unemployment. And the most striking part of these results, or this story, is exports. While the exports of goods have increased by 70% since 2016, the exports of services, which is driven by culture and tourism, has tripled, actually, more than tripled since 2016. And we've seen that driven by these new sectors that we talked about that drive these exports of services. This is proof or an indication that culture is not a luxury. Culture is a sector that is in the heart of the economic diversification of Saudi.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for that amazing answer. I do want to move on to you, Your Excellency, Dr. Ínaس. Each of the sectors that are here with us on stage, education, sports, economy, and culture, intersect in distinct yet complementary ways. How can joint action across these fields help translate cultural assets into real investment and competitiveness?
Thank you, Noor. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Your Excellency, Dr. Hamid, for inviting me to be here. I will start with what Dr. Engineer Ammar ended his statement. Culture is at the heart of Vision 2030. And in education, we see culture as the golden thread that ties education, sports, and economy. When culture is embedded in schools and universities, students not only enrich their learning opportunities, but they unleash their talent, their creativity, and they become global citizens rooted in their own identity. But let me give you an example of education and sports. Our classrooms, our campuses are not just spaces for exams and books. They are arenas for skills development. And when sports and culture come together, you produce well-rounded, well-exposed individuals that are ready to compete locally and globally. Look at economics. In education, we are preparing graduates for a thriving creative economy. Every day we produce new degrees that run alongside the advancement in our economic sector. But hand in hand, together with the Ministry of Culture, we work systematically through the National Cultural Talent Development Strategy. We weave cultural content into our curricula. So far, we have phased integration of 9 upcoming subjects in culture, in arts and culture. We have revised the national qualification standard framework in order to include cultural talent and cultural framework. So in conclusion, with everyone on stage today, I could say education is foundation, sports gives visibility, economics provides scale, and culture gives it all meaning so that we can turn all our assets, our cultural assets, into jobs, opportunities, investments, hopefully with a global competitive edge.
What a phenomenal answer. Thank you so much, Dr. Ínass. Your Excellency, Dr. Hamid, I would love to ask you the same question. Let me repeat it for you. Each of your sectors, education, sport, economy, and culture, intersect with culture in distinct yet complementary ways. How can joint action across these fields help translate cultural assets into real investment and competitiveness?
Again, thank you very much, Dr. Ínass Maliki. Look, we have a lot of examples. The Minister of Culture, at its core, the mandate is to develop the sector. But one of the things that is also a clear principle in what we do is build on partnerships. Partnerships within the public sector as well as the private sector and third sector. And within the public sector, our closest partners are actually sitting here. And we have great examples, for example, with sports. His Excellency Badr mentioned a few of the activities that we've done together, but I think a perfect example is the Saudi Cup. Saudi Cup is a horse racing event, happens every year, that through the collaboration between the Minister of Culture and its commissions with the Saudi Cup entity, we're able to transform a sporting event into a sporting/cultural festival. And what this does is it helps commercially with the event itself because you have a much wider audience. It helps us in terms of showcasing our culture and national identity and priorities to those who are visiting from all around the world and those who are watching on TV. And we also it helps us from a perspective that we share, for example, 100 brands program, our fashion designers, we have a setup for them there, which helps them commercially. So going back to the commercial side. So again, everyone benefits from such collaboration, and it really became part and parcel. It's not sports, it's not culture, it's one. And that's just one of a few. As His Excellency mentioned, There's no event that we do not collaborate with. Design of a cup, for example, or a few years ago we had the year of Arabic calligraphy, and the Minister of Sports had the players print their name with Arabic. It had a massive impact, even though it's a small initiative. With education, I mean, I can speak hours about our work with education. Her Excellency mentioned it, or she said it better or more eloquently than I can ever do. But as she mentioned, we are connected at the hip. I remember His Excellency Yusuf Abniyan, the Minister of Education, when he first became minister, we had a meeting with His Highness Prince Badr, and we're presenting the strategy that Her Excellency is alluding to. I said, great, yes, we want to deliver on the strategy, on all these initiatives, but what's more important is for us to institutionally connect you into the kitchen of the Minister of Education is. And his message to us was, we need you as much as you need us, because the culture and our subjects and topics and subsectors add a flavor to schooling. And to school, I said, I want students to go to school, to enjoy school. So we've been doing a lot, and across the age and grading system. So from kindergarten, and already we introduced music with the support of the Minister of Education 2 years ago in kindergarten. Throughout primary learning and secondary learning, scholarships afterwards. So we have a cultural scholarship program in alignment with the Minister of Education. And the biggest milestone achieved so far, which is His Highness's announcement yesterday of the launch of Riyadh University of Arts. So education, and His Highness did mention it when he was interviewing for the job. I said, okay, how are we going to create culture? What is our priority before there was anything? And his message was education, 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 because it's sustainable for generations to come. So a lot is being done with education, but again, putting all of this together in terms of a commercial perspective, we're working with our partners in education and the Ministry of Human Resources to ensure that we educate for demand. So when people graduate from university, there are jobs, there is that talent demand for that specific sector and role. And lastly, I think with the Minister of Economy, so His Excellency Amar doesn't feel left out. We actually worked a lot together on Expo 2020 and Expo 2025 in Osaka. And just a data point, 93% of the more than 2 million visitors in Expo Osaka, in our pavilion in Expo Osaka, mainly Japanese, is very local and domestic, said they want to visit, they plan to visit Saudi Arabia after visiting the pavilion. So this does not have necessarily direct cultural impact, but it's a national impact to the country overall. And that's where complementary efforts is being done and managed to realize value for the country, not necessarily for one minister or another, or a sector or another. And that's the power of collaboration and synergy between different ministries within government.
Culture is a unifier, basically, between all sectors. It brings us all together and different levels, and we see this on this session directly. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Excellency Badr, I would like to ask you about the cultural narratives to enhance major sporting events hosted in Saudi Arabia. We've heard a few, but I would love also a personal story that you could tell to our audience.
Let's imagine together attending a car race, Formula One, for example, without having an activation happening with it. So it would be just attending for an hour, looking at cars going in laps and going back home. Would this be interesting or entertaining? Obviously it won't. And hence it's quite important to have that activation, cultural event happening, the concert after the race itself and so on. Likewise, if we remember major global events, major sporting events, the likes of the World Cup or the Olympics, I think what I would remember from an Olympic game or a World Cup is the opening itself. the ceremony that happened there, what key messages has been delivered to the people and all that. So it's quite important to embed, the cultural aspect of a city or a country as you attend a sporting event on it. And we in Saudi Arabia, we're very much caring about this and now building our World Cup stadiums to have this into account and perspective. For example, I was just looking at a tweet this morning showing the progress in Jeddah Central Stadium. And most of the comments were there about the beauty of the building and how it represents the culture of Jeddah and the architecture there. Likewise, the King Salman Stadium that is being built here in Riyadh, it reflects the topography of Najd region. And hence, these key messages will be taken away with people visiting Saudi and coming here. In sporting events, we always have giveaways that the guests take with them, and mostly they care about takeaways that has a local cultural aspect to it. His Excellency mentioned the Arabic calligraphy that is written on the back of the jerseys of the players. We also had the same in Formula One, where you see Max Verstappen, for example, his name written in Arabic, and he used to like it. He took a picture of it and stood there to show the world his name written in Arabic calligraphy. I believe enabling our content creators to pass their messages is super important. And with that, I remember my colleagues in Thamania, for example, the broadcasters of the Saudi sports events today. We have chosen Thamania. One of the key reasons that Thamania have been selected as a broadcaster was their ability to create a content that reflects us as Saudis, our culture, our young generation and messaging. So hence, definitely, this is all experience that we care for. One last example I was just discussing with my colleagues in regards to esports. There are games now taking place that has places from Saudi as the look and feel of the game itself, Al-Ula, for example, or Red Sea, and so on. So all of that are key messages that we give to the world and we leave them with. I believe that culture plays an important role, and sport and culture goes hand in hand.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I'd like to move on to you, Your Excellency, Engineer Ammar. What policy tools best attract long-term cultural investments?
When identifying policies or economic plans, I think one of the most important questions to answer is, what are our competitive advantages? This is the case for businesses as well. Any business thrives based on identifying a unique value proposition, a competitive advantage that they can deliver. And the same case applies to our cities and our regions. We work continuously on identifying these competitive advantages for every region to see how we can support them and leverage them part of the sectoral and regional plans. Now, these competitive advantages can be industrial, can be logistical, can be agricultural, can be sports related, depending maybe on which team you support, or it could be cultural. The cultural aspect is becoming a dynamic part of the economy, and it's becoming a source of national pride, and it's putting Saudi on the world map. Today we have a lot of great heritage assets. We have 6 or actually 8 UNESCO heritage sites in Al-Ula, Jeddah, Al-Balad, Al-Dir'iyya, and many others. And we also have 16 UNESCO intangible heritage elements that preserve the traditions of Saudi. To leverage all of these assets, it's important to have the right policy tools that support them. These policy tools can include investment in infrastructure, whether digital or physical, to bring connectivity, or it can be funding through the Cultural Development Fund, or it can be human capital related through training programs and scholarships. I think the advantages and the assets are there. Culture is on a very strong foundation. There are so many tools and policy interventions that support the sector. Today, culture is 1.6% of total GDP, and it has created more than 230,000 jobs. But one thing for sure, I think His Excellency Hamid and the team in culture are just getting started. So I'm sure there's more to come.
We look forward to it.
Thanks for the pressure. But it's true. I think there's the potential and opportunity going forward. They're just huge. And the infrastructure component within our national culture strategy is just getting kicked in. We have 15 to 18 museums that will open up until 2030, including at least 2 this year. So we are indeed just getting started.
Well, we're excited to be in the future, inshallah, and see all of these opening of museums, because I'm a personal fan of history. And I know lots of children usually go on field trips to museums. And instead of having a couple now, they're going to have so many choices, inshallah, in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Dr. Ínass, I would like to ask you the final question and really know, to what extent should the growth of culture be planned and directed by policy versus left to evolve through market demand and creativity?
Wonderful. Evolution question to close. I think everyone agrees that cultural education needs both. Needs proper planning and needs the freedom to grow through creativity and the energy of the market. Together with the Ministry of Culture, I think we are striking a balance. We are pursuing this balance every day to move forward with clarity, with proper planning, but also unleashing imagination, creativity. So from the policy side, as I said, embedded curricula within the education system, regulatory reforms have taken place in the technical and vocational sector to accelerate the licensing of new academies. The artistic talent is now recognized within the National Gifted and Talented Framework. Universities are launching new degrees every day. So far, we have 49 degrees in different cultural aspects in Saudi universities. We have 18 colleges specialized in culture. Universities are taking it to the next level, supporting creative entrepreneurship, supporting students turn their ideas and their creativity into jobs and industries. The scholarship program, just as mentioned by His Excellency Hamid Al-Faiz, we have so far over 500 scholars, students studying abroad in cultural disciplines. Of those, 130 students studying the top 30 institutions around the world. The national competition for talent attracted over 1 million students. The international benchmark is usually 5% of engagement of students. We exceeded 10% here in Saudi Arabia, reflecting the appetite and the interest that those students have in entering the system. I think, from everything I heard yesterday and today, I think this conference is a manifestation that Saudi Arabia is a regional hub for cultural education and talent development. We provide long-term value with a skilled workforce, a thriving creative economy, and I believe very lucrative environment that attracts both local and international investors.
What an amazing ending to that. Please join me in expressing our thanks and gratitude to their excellencies for this very rich session. We really appreciate you being here, your candid answers, and look forward to the future of culture in Saudi Arabia. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.